People pray for things they are not prepared to receive, dimensions they can't handle. Instead of obsessing over the outcome, when will this happen? When will the wealth come? Prepare, stay, and build capacity. As a businessman, instead of waiting for the outcome, the best thing you can do for yourself in that moment is to build capacity. Because what happens when you uphold moral standards, when you choose to be integrous, and every single person is after you, the system you created to persecute evil is now against you. And because of the rigor in the process, it is impossible for you to escape once evidence has been planted. So the same system is now persecuting you, and officers who looked at you in admiration are forced to look in disgust. You mean this man did this? You mean XYZ did this? How? And unfortunately, you are forced to restore relationship, repair your reputation over the endless thing that is being printed on the media, and every single thing is imploding. And these dollar bills you've so worked hard to get is now depleting with endless lawsuits. And some people might choose that kind of situation comparatively. But my friend, you obsess over dollar bills. You are suicidal because of the absence, and you think you can handle antagonism in addition to the depleting dollar bills? Exactly. You are not ready for that position. Which leads to tonight's discussion. Build capacity. Build capacity. If there's anything I've noticed about success, when you're about to get to the next level, when that transition is imminent, just around the corner, every single thing becomes difficult, down to the basic activities of life. Your meal becomes bad, the delivery doesn't arrive on time, and you exactly need it to complete the next project and the next thing, and this wrong narrative is being printed. Every single thing seems to upset you at that moment. There are one of two things you can do. A, be spiteful, hate people, complain about the situation. Or B, don't get distracted by the small things and move on. You see, capacity, which we'll talk about as we continue the journey. But all that situation is a preview to what is coming. Perhaps different circumstance, different actors, but the same feeling, the same simulation. You might experience that circumstance under a different atmosphere, but the same feeling is what the universe is trying you out for. Before I hit my first financial objective, I recall perfectly everything went to shit. The business deal I was expecting didn't come through. The XYZ I was preparing for went down the drain. Every single investment opportunity, I had missed it. So this thing I was preparing for, and I'm speaking in secure details for obvious reasons. But every single thing I was planning for seemed not to work. I was under constant pressure, stress, every single thing you can devise on. And in that split second, the urge to return to old activities was high. Because in success, the only thing, especially when you're still coming up, preventing you from going to that previous life is the little progress you see along the way. That's why we celebrate athletes and gold medalists. It's not necessarily because they won a medal, but they persisted, the process they put themselves through to arrive there. So, as a businessman, entrepreneur, you'll notice perfectly that the only thing keeping you going is the progress you make along the way. The separation between boys and men is how long you can continue without seeing progress. And for some of you who are not yet exposed, perhaps someone else is paying the price for you. You might not understand what I'm saying. So shelve this video. But for those who are getting up every single day, working tirelessly, engaging in an activity that is legal, and trying their best to build that business, you understand perfectly what I am saying, and you would nod your head in affirmation. So the difference between a successful entrepreneur and the average one is the time frame between when they stop seeing progress and when they stop. And you will notice something too. In the middle of this event, you'll be tempted to go back to previous friends, previous activities, things that don't move you to your goal. That's when you have to make the decision to show life that you are the kind of person you say you are. Because the universe is very interesting. It is a very interesting place. It would always expose you if you claim to be something you're not. So if you claim to be an alpha male, businessman, nothing can hurt you. It will bring the requisite level of experience to test that mindset. That's why people are being exposed left, right, and center. It's not necessarily because they don't believe in what they are saying, but in the face of that circumstance, they crumble. And it's easy to stay here and point fingers and say you should do this, you should do the right thing. But every single person knows exactly what to do. When you're faced with that difficulty, not clicking on that website or engaging in that addiction is something you know intrinsically not to do, and yet you still do it. You are trying to control yourself, but it's not working. So it is difficult. It is difficult. But then, my friend, is when you introduce capacity. Capacity, as I defined, is the ability or the maximum amount an object can retain. Capacity. The universe would always train you in accordance to your journey. That's why they dislike blind copying. Blind copying. That agenda or that action might be limited based on its assignment as touching destiny. Even in the Bible, it said Elijah ate and he went to sleep. The angel had to tap him and said, "Eat, for the journey is far." And on the strength of what Elijah ate, he journeyed 40 days and 40 nights. Eat, for the journey is far. That's building capacity for the days to come. I hope you know the problem was never the oil. The problem was that the container was too small. The container hosting it was too small. And he gave a recommendation that is applicable to every single one of us. Borrow vessels, borrow not a few. The solution is not to borrow oil. The solution is not to slip your way up the corporate ladder. The solution is not to go around looking for political positions. The solution is not trying to curry favors. The solution is not necessarily force bruiting and begging and bowing your heads for results. You can get to a point of value and competence where you can no longer be ignored. When we started, people said all kinds of things. They made all kinds of proclamations. And where are they? Where are they? You see, there are individuals in the business of discouraging others. That's their work. They have nothing else to do but discourage others. And like I said in the previous discussion, because they too have tried and gotten a little bit of success, they made a little bit of progress, they understand a little of the journey you're headed, and they're able to predict the next move. Because of their accurate prediction, you might mistake their word for truth. Success is a pattern. That's why when I speak, you go on a fourth trip, you are thinking of something else. You are applying what I am saying to your current scenario, which validates my point. So success is a pattern. If they are able to share truths from their previous journey and it checks out with your life, especially when they predict the next step with digital precision, you might mistake their negative speakings for truth. I am here to tell you, they stopped. That is why they did not get the result. The Bible puts it perfectly that nothing will be restrained from a man who refused to stop. Remember the story, the Tower of Babel. It said nothing will be restrained from them who have decided not to stop. No, who have set their hearts on. What have you set your heart on? What have you set your heart on? And be consistent in that reality. I recall when we started, like I said, people said all kinds of things, made all kinds of predictions. Don't worry, let them start XYZ. It's only a matter of time before they crumble. And where are they? Where are they now? There was a judge who neither feared God or man. The Bible said, and this widow went daily, avenge me my adversaries. And he came out one day that I would answer this woman her request, lest she weareth my soul. That even the universe, the cosmos, recognizes importunity. There's anything I know about the devil, he is a stubborn spirit, but he gets weary too. His encounter with Jesus, it is written, it is written, it is written, and he left him for a season. So the devil can get tired, and it is your assignment through sheer determination to get him to that point. So quickly, 2 ways to build capacity. And please listen very carefully. I'm sure most of you are inspired, you are motivated, you are fired up to take action. But knowledge or action without knowledge will not produce results. Action in ignorance leads to frustration. So that's the first thing. So listen very carefully. I'm going to give you 2 points for the sake of time. Maximize them, cherish them. Please disregard this idea that everybody's out there to steal your money, or some people extend the length of their content to encourage what you guys call it, viewership. It's not everybody that is like that. Some people genuinely want to see you get to the next level, genuinely want to see you successful. Excuse me. My apologies. Genuinely want to see you successful. Genuinely want to see you get to the next level. That's the reality for some people. So the first way to build capacity as touching scripture is to borrow vessels. Borrow not a few. Vessels, as I have defined, I have not defined vessels. Vessels can be linked to capacity. Vessels retains our definition on capacity. An object used to host a maximum potential of something. So a vessel is a retaining factor. It is used to host potentials. That's the purpose of a vessel. When you borrow vessels, you are expanding yourself, you are expanding your coast. For some of you who aspire to be businessmen, ministers, professors, you have to go out there, listen to your predecessors, listen to people who have results. Let men who have gone ahead talk to you. Listen. And this is not all about buying courses and paid membership. All of these are wonderful, but there are a lot of information you can get for free. Most of you admire my phenomenal communication and my flawless way of delivering points. And recently I was asked, are you media trained, sir? If I had money for media training, I would eat first, live to fight another day before I speak of investing in such platform when I can get it for free. Again, I'm not saying investing in materials, investing in books and all of this are negative. In fact, that's the whole point of building capacity. But I'm here to encourage you on minimal finances with data that is next to nothing. You can get access to materials, access to videos, access to content that begins to shape and prime your understanding. So building capacity is all about borrowing, extending yourself, putting yourself in difficult situations. You see, very recently, a narrative was spread about my business, and the person who was the originator did not want to speak to me. So I heard it from someone. I told that person I was going to confront the perpetrator. The victim responded, "It's not necessary." And I went to see the lady. You could see the tension in her voice. And we had a little discourse. We talked about it. We ironed it out like adults. And that was it. But the point I'm trying to highlight is that lady is a huge percentile of you, always deferring conflicts to avoid confrontation, to avoid sitting in a difficult setting. Most of you, at the hint of any kind of difficulty, especially when it's physical, you defer, you just capitulate, you accept instead of discussing it out. And the small things leads to the big things in your relationship. Instead of having that difficult conversation with a partner, you prefer to block or ignore his calls. Those kind of extreme activities. The solution is not to stop. The solution is to recognize the mindset behind that action. I've told you, you do not solve problems by solving problems. You solve problems by finding the cause of the problem and providing solution. You don't wrestle with effects. Oh, this lady called me broke, so I'm going to get XYZ. I'm going to get a new belt. No, that's wrestling with effects. What happens when you no longer have the item of compensation? Exactly. And that is how the corporation, or this big corporation, puts you on a hamster wheel of achieving externalities. The true way to solve problems is to build capacity, build your finance. Ah, she called me broke. Then lock in, try and do something with your life. And when those finances begin to come in whatever quantities, you would have learned the laws of investment, the laws of multiplication, the laws of humility, the laws of honor, the laws that govern the universe as a whole. Although the motive behind the beginning of the journey was impure, was childish, but now that the result has been handed to you, you notice you've become a different person. That's the first. build capacity, enlarge yourself, enlarge your course, put your character in difficult situations, difficult position, things you've not experienced before. If approaching people is your problem, getting a conversation with someone, it might be as a consequence of an unresolved insecurity. When you're speaking to a lady in public, you do not fear rejection, you fear the perception of others after that activity. Please understand, if you are alone or in a foreign country, you would not care. But the fact that your reputation is always associated with someone at the expense of what someone think, it shows there's a lot of problem to address. So that's the first one. Number two, the second way to build capacity from scripture is to shut the door. Shut the door. Shutting the door is a symbol of isolation. Shutting the door is a disconnection from external things, external noise. Isn't it interesting? He would have ordered the lady to do it in her compound or do it in the public or in the market square. But transformation of that kind requires closed door, requires isolation, where there is no noise to interrupt what God wants to do in your life, to interrupt the next phase of your destiny. There should be no noise. Some of you are at the point where you don't feel like being around people. You don't feel like you're fitting in. You go online and there is a lot of misguided approach as to the interpretation of this body. I'm here to tell you, accept the isolation. The isolation is where purposes are found, goals are redeemed. That is the environment for miracles to happen. It's in the purpose you truly discover who you are. And once that person is discovered, no matter the reality, no matter what someone said or the physical circumstance, it won't be enough. You have to re-educate me for 1,000 years for me to unbelieve that if I'm NSI, the sun god Ra, I am beholden. Now you understand why the 24 elders are constantly worshiping God, because anytime they raise up their head, his form has changed. And in the kingdom, the degree of proximity to Yahweh determines the light you emanate. That's why when Gabriel came to Zechariah and he lacked discernment, the man was already upset that I'm waiting and this peasant boy cannot see. And finally, when he saw, he doubted, and Gabriel was so upset. He said, I am Gabriel, who standeth in the presence of God. God did not send me on this one, but be done for doubting my office. I should be in heaven enjoying the richness of his presence, and I am here, and you dare doubt me. It's the local equivalent of the chief advisor of the president of the United States walking into a small restaurant and declaring free meal. The manager walks up. Are you sure this is possible? Are you sure you can afford that? And the chief of staff, are you okay? I am the chief of staff. So that's the local equivalent. I'm sure that's how the angel felt at the time. So anytime you encounter any of my videos, you learn, your light increases. And light in this kingdom means knowledge. So you learn, you become wiser when you are in my presence. Does that make sense? So the first one, a quick recap. You need capacity for any dimension you want to handle. Instead of focusing on the interruption, focusing on the outcome, focusing on the exact date of the event, focus more on becoming the kind of person that can handle both the positives and the negatives, because sometimes the negatives outweigh the positives, but the situation is invariably better than your current state. A life of having external problems, like the government is trying to attack you, people are hacking into your system, people are begging for money, all of those problems is better than being unhealthy, not having anything to eat, unable to provide for the family. In fact, that puts you in a compromising state in and of itself. Because if someone negative was to reach out with an opportunity, as they phrase it, you partake. So poor man has no integrity. Yeah, are there poor people with integrity? But wealth helps preserve the integrity more. Finances help put within pastors within the safe zone of integrity. It is easier for you not to manipulate your members when the auditorium is paid for, there is no external debt, and you have money in your account that was gotten legally. So yeah, that's the first. Then we move to the two steps to build capacity. The first one, borrowing vessels, and this talks of enlarging your coast, becoming better, putting yourself in difficult situation, paying the price to get to the next level. The second, which is shutting the door, isolation, being by yourself, enjoying your own company, devising the next level of your life. And for the sake of time, we'll end it here. As always, my friends, it's a pleasure speaking to you. I'll see you in the next one.